Hey everybody. This week I went to go and see The Hunger Games at Canary Wharf. It was a Christmas present for my son, so we went and spent the day out in London. It was lovely. What did I think of The Hunger Games? Well, let's start off with how easy it is to get there. First of all, Troubadour theatres are actually always quite easy to get to, and they're good for making purpose-made theatres. So, for example, if you've been to see Starlight Express or you've seen my review on Starlight Express, that's a Troubadour theatre. The kind of views from the seats are always actually pretty good because they have been purposely made and they are more modern. So it's not like some of the older ones that you might go to in the West End. So it was very easy to get to. So we came into London Bridge, got on the tube on the Jubilee line, and it was only about 3 stops down, I think, on the Jubilee line. And my son had said to me, did I know where the theatre was? And, I hadn't really planned ahead, but I didn't need to worry about that because there are actually signs and posters. I will post a picture of one. There are sort of signs and posters that point you in the right direction anyway. So it's very, very easy to find once you come out of the tube station. So the theatre itself is actually lovely and big inside. There was a bar, big bar sort of downstairs, and where you've got merch and stuff. And there's, as you go upstairs as well, to go into the actual theatre, there's another big bar upstairs there, and they've got the hanging tree and they've got memorabilia and stuff. And I'll put a couple of pictures up of the type of merchandise they have, and they have the Mockingjay pin and sweatshirts and things like that. And they also give you a kind of list of things that you need to be aware of, obviously sort of violence, gore, that kind of thing, just to be aware of if you're taking sort of younger children, that there is a lot of violence in it. It's the Hunger Games. It's very cleverly done, but I'll come on to that in a second. So yeah, just be aware if you are going to take younger children with you. So getting there, very, very easy. Nice theatre. Always have to mention the toilets. Toilets are very good in these theatres. And again, I didn't have to actually queue once sort of to go, so which is great, especially when you think some of the West End theatres, you're all kind of queuing for just 1 or 2 cubicles. So anyway, that's kind of the whole getting there and all of those bits and pieces. So the theatre itself, once you get inside, is great. So it's in arena seating, so it's kind of in the round, so you've got the audience on all 4 sides, except at the 2 ends of the arena seating, those bits of seating move in and out. So if you are going to be sitting in those, you need to be prepared that at times the theatre goes into traverse so that they can get sets in and out. So by that I mean, with arena, here comes a quick theatre lesson. With arena staging or theatre in the round, you've got an audience on all 4 sides. When you've got traverse seating, it's basically travelling through, so your audience are on 2 sides. So that means that you might be kind of central when the seating is in arena, but then as the seats go kind of out, you're then kind of on the end of the seating and your view might not be quite as good. So my tip for you would be, if you're able to, try and go for the seats where you're not right at the ends that actually move. Try and maybe be central in the other parts of the arena. Okay, so that's kind of the one thing with seats. But I actually quite like the way that it changed from going to arena to a traverse. I thought it was quite interesting that they had different ways of doing it, and it was cool seeing the sort of set coming in and out. Like I said, the seating is rake seating, and it's quite a steep rake, so actually there are good views from the seats. Even if you had someone, they'd have to be really particularly tall in front of you to block your view, so you can get a good view wherever you are. It does bring in the point about sort of mobility, that obviously getting down the steps to get to the bottom is going to be slightly trickier. I didn't actually look at what they had in place for that, so that might be something that's worth checking at the time you book any tickets. So on to the actual show itself. So I really wasn't sure what to expect going to see the Hunger Games. I wasn't entirely sure how they were going to do certain aspects of it. So I didn't really have kind of any clear expectations. Didn't know what it was going to look like. Thought it was going to be maybe more acting as such than it was, but it was actually done more in the style of sort of physical theatre. So there was a lot of physicality to it. And I really liked that because that's my kind of thing. That's my kind of theatre. I love that type of theatre. So, you know, they use music really well. They use different sort of movement motifs. So when they went into District 12 and stuff like that, and then they had this really kind of cool, almost 60s, 70s kind of jam feel that went with the Capitol. And sort of when they came in, they would have these particular movements that they do. It was very, very clever. And then obviously they had lots of stage combat when they were doing the battle scenes and things like that. Lots of people multi-rolled, so they played more than one character. So, I mean, the swing and the ensemble were phenomenal in this piece. It really was an excellent ensemble piece. Really was very, very good. It stuck pretty closely to the book. And obviously elements of the film, so there were things that people would recognise easily. Costumes and things, obviously it was slightly different. Some things were similar, some things were a little bit different, but you know, I'll come on to costumes again in just a second. President Snow, there was no actual President Snow that was in there, but John Malkovich actually plays President Snow, and that's actually projected onto two sort of screens that they have on either end of the arena. So again, it's nice and easy for everyone to see. You know, it's worth keeping an eye out for different times when they are doing fighting where they're abseiling off the side of the theatre on either side. So you can see one side, the other, you know, group can see the other side. They had some that were abseiling down the ends as well. I mean, it was an amazingly physical piece. The amount of times they would have to clip onto things because they were climbing up a rope ladder, or the lighting bar would come down and be at an angle and they would climb up that as a tree. So they have to clip in, you know, use of fire. Really, really clever. I don't want to tell you too much because it will give too much away, I think. The middle of the arena sinks down into the ground so that they can change sets, so they can bring sets up. So that's very clever. They fly sets in as well. It's worth staying around at the beginning of the interval to see them actually setting up for the cornucopia as the Hunger Games begin. So that's well worth having a look at too. And actually, I really like looking when they've kind of like pulled somebody up, and then they kind of move them along a pulley system sort of at the top, obviously to get them to a place where they can unclip them and take them over. And I was kind of like watching to see whether they stayed in character all the time they were being pulled across, and they did. It was really quite cool. I was really impressed. Someone who was, you know, supposed to be dead, and they remained kind of dead all the way along. I don't think I'd have been able to do that. I think I would have just, yeah. Anyway, so yeah, acting wise, really, really good. Costumes were lovely. In fact, the only costume that I had a real kind of gripe with actually was the peacekeepers. So the peacekeepers were almost like in a hazmat suit, and I get it. They really needed to be easy to change in and out of them because the costume changes are insane. But it felt a little bit like Squid Games. I mean, I guess it's not much different to Squid Games really, but it felt a little bit like Squid Games, or that we were back in the COVID realms. And so that was the only bit for me that was just a bit jarring and didn't quite fit with everything else I think that they were trying to do. And I think they could have done it differently and still been able to do costume changes. It just didn't look right. I mean, let me know what you think about it if you've been to see it and you've seen those costumes. But for me, yeah, it wasn't It wasn't the best. It wasn't the most convincing. But yeah, they do have some absolutely insane costume changes, and we're talking wigs, clothing, the whole lot. It's totally nuts. And I think they've got something like 4 dresses on the show, including I think 3 other ones who are senior dressers. And then they've got wig assistants and stuff as well, because they would need to. They really would need to, because you've got somebody who's on one scene and then you're going, oh my god, how on earth did you get changed into that quickly to be there? So yeah, it's worth kind of looking at that and seeing which ensemble players are doing different things. I thought they did Rue's death really lovely. I mean, is that the right thing to say? Her death was lovely? Maybe not. But the way that they kind of presented it on the stage, again, it was really well thought through, and they had the juxtaposition of the city and stuff that was kind of going on. So, yeah, I did. I really enjoyed it, and I would say that probably the only thing that I was kind of like was that one costume. So that's not bad going, really. I'm probably the worst person to go to the theatre with, really, because I'm always kind of looking at things, going, how could they do that, or how did they do that? But yeah, I mean, look, for me, if it would be one that I would kind of look at and go, I would happily take my GCSE and A-level students to go and see that show, because there would be so much for them to write about. And I always think that's a really good show when it gives you lots of scope for things to talk about. So I would totally recommend going to see The Hunger Games. I thought it was great. I really did think it was great. It was a really good day out. Each sort of act was about an hour and 10, I think they said, and then with the 20 minutes in between for the interval. So, it's not too long. It's a great kind of afternoon out or evening out. Like I said, very easy to get to. Totally recommend it. If you've been to see it, let me know what your thoughts were and pop them in the comments below. I'd be really interested to see what other people's thoughts were and whether they enjoyed it as much as I did. So, yeah, Hunger Games, Canary Wharf, Troubadour Theatre. Enjoy. Bye.